So in this last video series where I'm making a post-it box with a hinge, I'm going to be looking at two things. Very briefly talking about the way that I've got this cutout and then this, well, I'm not quite sure how to phrase that, this kind of little piece of wood here that's been glued into the lid with a finger joint that then kind of goes into that space. Okay. I'm going to briefly mention that and then I'm going to talk about how I created this pattern. Okay, so with this cutout here, the key thing is that if I bring some faint lines, turn on the attach tool here, from this point down, no, it's not quite lining up here. Typical. Okay, so let's just make sure here that everything is lining up. I'm just going to have to select this panel here, and you can see that I've got the front non-selected there. So let's grab that. Let's turn on grid lock. Let's pull that to the right, 1 square. Okay, that's now correct because I can see that this edge of the box is in line with the front, or the lid is in line with the front edge of the box. Okay, so let's just do that process again. Straight line tool, attach tool, radial lock, grid off. I'm going to snap on there and you'll see that, where the finger joint cutout is, this bit lines up with that front edge and this back edge lines up with the internal dimension of the box, which is making sure that this piece of wood, when I've glued it on, fits perfectly into flush with the front of the box there. Okay. But in terms of the creation of this, that is going to be something for you to work on. Let's just make sure here, just grab this. Oh, I've not grouped that together. There we go. Let's take this. Let's group that together, Control G. Okay, good. So in here, I would need to make sure again that I've got a little cutout in my box here. Notice that I've actually got rid of the line that goes across the front here. If I get a line tool here and and just turn on the attach tool, I could run a line in there. Okay, so this is pale gray, but that's the same as this line here. Okay. What else have we got to work on here? Let me see. Yes, the pattern. Let's look at the pattern. Now, I'm going to do this in the following process. What I want to have here is a square here, onto which I'm going to have this pattern. So let's have a look at how I could do that. With my lid here, the lid is going to effectively be the same size as the base, and so I'm going to use that as a model. And what I'm going to do is get the rectangle tool. I'm going to come to step lock. I think I'm going to put this back to 1 millimeter. And I want to have this pattern basically starting, let's say, it's difficult to say here. Yeah, let's go 2 millimeters from the edge. In fact, I'm going to put it back to 0.5. And I'm going to have it coming in at 1.5 millimeter from the edge. 1, so half 1, 1.5. And I'm going to have that coming across to the end here. And I'm going to have it half in, 1 in, 1.5 in. There we go. So that's the size that I want my my pattern to be for the lid of the box. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is with the attach tool, I'm going to draw in here a corner to corner line to identify the center of the box. Let's turn off the attach tool here. Back onto step lock. I'm going to select all of this, and now I'm going to just move this so it's on the grid. And because I'm working with the grid very carefully, I can just snap that in there. Okay, so now that's looking great. Let's have a see what I'm going to do with this. I am thinking of the following plan. Let's try something a little bit different here. I'm going to come to the grid settings here, and I'm going to change things around a little bit. I'm going to make these custom, with an x angle of 45 and a y angle of 135, which is 90 plus 45. Pale blue lines. And let's just see what I get there. Interesting. Okay, so I've just snapped this onto the original grid, and now what I'm going to have to do here is re-snap this onto the new grid. Now, will it snap on? No, look, it's slightly off. So that's going to be a problem. So actually, I'm not going to use this system because it's going to end up being slightly off. So let's just undo that. Let's come back to my grid settings here, and let's put it back to orthogonal grid here. It always defaults there to black dots, which I find most unusual, most difficult to work with, sorry. There we are. Okay, so let's see, I'm going to work with this instead. Let's just get here some pale gray lines. And I'm going to draw, I'm going to come actually off this completely, and I'm going to work over here. And let's just draw in here. Can you see my cursor? No, it's too pale. It's vanished. Can I work with that? Yes, I can. And I'm going to draw in here a line. I'm going to take that line, transformation tool, and I'm going to transform this. To see how do I want to do this? A rectangular array of the selected objects, yes. And I'm going to basically have this an x spacing of 5 millimeters and a y of 0. And I'm going to have, let's say I'm going to go with 15 columns and 1 row. Let's see how that looks. Okay, that's a good guess. Okay, so that's all the way across. Now, let me see. I'm now going to draw a line all the way along here. In fact, no, I think what I'm going to do instead, actually, is I'm going to take this. In fact, no, I want to have more lines. So that, thinking about that right now, more lines. I'm going to go 20. That's better. Okay. Now, let's take this. Let's group it. That's a good idea. Let's group that. Let's do a rotation of this through 90. I'm going to repeat it once, and I'm going to try and click on the center. Is the center there? Super. Okay, so that looks like I'm getting this nice kind of grid pattern, which I'm liking a lot. Okay, now let's see, where else can I go with this? Let's zoom in on this. Okay, let's now get the contour tool. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to have a contour spacing, graphical contour spacing of 1. And I'm going to have this in, no, I'm not going to do this yet. No, I'm going to select all of this. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to group this together again. And now I'm going to rotate this to 45 degrees and replace it. I'm going to click on that bottom left corner. Or do I? No, I'm going to click. Where's my cursor gone? My cursor disappears. Oh, that's horrendous. Let's put my cursor back to black. Does that make it like, yeah, that's a bit easier for me now. I'm going to click on that center point. And then now, can I bring this over here and snap it onto there? It's not actually giving me a center point there. Isn't that annoying? And also it's slightly off. So maybe what I can do here, I went onto the step lock in an earlier video. I was able to right click on that and move it around and put it there. I wonder. Okay. I think it's all to do with the way that I've rotated this. That's the problem. I think I'd like to spend more time on getting that right, but I think in this case, I'm just going to run with that. And can I put that there? Look, I am slightly off again, but you know what? I think I'm going to run with that. I think I am going to run with that. Okay, right. I feel like I'm letting the team down here because I've not got this absolutely perfect. I can see it slightly off on the corners, and that's bothering me. And look, it's not big enough either. It's just not quite big enough. So I need to go back and I need to do some more work on this. That's yeah, definitely not happy with that. I think what I'm going to do actually, I'm going to pause the video and come up with a solution to this. Here we go. Okay, so I think I've got a solution here. What I've done is I've added some more lines on, so it makes a complete square. But when I click on it, I notice that the center of this grid is not on the grid. It's a midpoint. So what I'm actually going to have to do here is effectively make this all a little bit longer, which is going to be really annoying to do. So maybe I'm just going to have to draw a line there. I'm going to have to run that. Yeah, I've lost all my transformation tools here. Okay, let's make that 22, 5mm spacing. Look, that works like that. That's absolutely fantastic. But of course, I also need to be one more because I want to take it to the end. In fact, I'm simply going to do that, put a line there, and then run that line. Here we go. One column, 21, I think, 0 in the X, 5 in the Y. Oh, and it's gone that way. What I did wrong there was I should have done it -5, so it goes down. There you go. Oh, and I'm missing one line at the bottom. Ay, 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 ay. So let's select all of that. I'm going to do a Control G on this, and that's on the grid. Now I can do a rotational symmetry with this through 45 degrees, replacing. And again, I can't see my cursor, so let's go into a black line there. There it is. And look, that's on the grid. So I can now pull that in, and that's absolutely perfect. Now I feel as if what I want to do here, I'm going to send this to the back. Now I can select these individual lines here and here, and now I've got my grid looking great. Okay, so that was a lot of mucking around, but here we go. What am I going to do with this? Now I'm going to come to my contour tool. I'm going to give myself a 1mm contour spacing in blue, and now what I can do is just start to work my way around this design, like so. Now, I'm not going to go all the way into these corners here because I don't think it's going to do anything. No, it's not. And so on and so forth. So I'm going to pause the video, finish this off, and then we'll see where we are at the end. Now, I've actually got this far, and what I've realized is there's a lot of clicking. What I've realized is I can select all of that. This seems to be the midpoint. And then all I need to do now is go to the mirror tool, repeat the pattern, and mirror it through that midpoint of the shape. And that saved me just under half the clicking. So that's the pattern done there. And then all I need to do now is the same process for these panels here. So in other words, I need to make sure, let's see, I'm going to turn on step lock here. I'm going to come in, make sure my line color here is black. That's the point I'm working from. So I'm actually going to draw a rectangle here. That's a good idea. I'm going to come in 1, half, 1, 1.5. And then here, I want to come into that point there, half, 1, 1.5. And then now I need to just draw my rectangle from there to there. And that's the shape I want to work with. So let me see how this is going to map out. Let's just see if this fits. That's a good idea. Let's take this, let's group it together, and let's now move this and see if it fits on the lid. And it wants to fit like, and here's the tricky situation. It wants to fit on here like this, doesn't it? It wants to be 1.5mm in from the edge. There. That's where it wants to be. So that's it on the bottom panel, and I can see here that the bottom panel and this panel are aligned on the grid. So all I now need to do is turn grid lock on, and I can pull this in, and it should perfectly, there you go, snap into there. And that should be it, ready to rock and roll. As I know, the back side of the back end of the lid here is going to extend out because that's where my hinge goes. And the front here is going to extend out because that's where I've got this little lip that allows me to open and close the lid. And now I can take this rectangle that I've just drawn. And it seems to me that the secret to this is to make sure that the center of this rectangle is on the grid. So let's come to step lock here. Let's zoom in and let's make sure that I put that right on the grid. Now come to grid lock. Now I can pull this across. I need to make sure here that I snap this perfectly onto the center of that shape. And then in the same way, using the contour tool with the 1mm contour spacing and color blue, I can now fill in this. And again, probably to save a little bit of time here, I'm going to use the mirror tool at one point to mirror those top cutouts onto the bottom. So let's come back to the selection tool. Let's select just those top pieces, mirror, repeat. I'm going to run along the midpoint there. That's going to grab that, pick it up, group it together, and now this should snap into this panel here. And if I go into step lock, I've got these little locator points. I can use those to line it up, which is perfect. And then now, because I know, do these two boxes align? Yes, they do. So grid lock, I'm going to copy that again, paste it, and now that just snaps perfectly into there. So I've already got the lid and I've got two side panels prepped for laser cutting out this intricate pattern. I had my hinge done from my previous video. I've just got to put in here this pattern on the back and front of the box. And of course, I also need to work on creating this cutout, which allows me to grab the post-its here from the front, and it gets sealed here from the top as well. Okay, my camera's messing me around a bit here. It's going a bit glitchy, so I hope that's all okay. There we go. I think I'm going to stop at that point, folks. I'm not going to go any further with this. Your challenge is to see how far you can get through this and then fill in the gaps that I've left out. And if you can, then it means you can develop your own pattern and your own features of this box, but still have a box that's got this hinged lid. Okay, so good luck with that, and I'll see you in the next video.